Greetings, Guardians of Dominion. Here is Zeus with another strategic breakdown. Lars has quietly climbed into the S tier, and many players still don't fully understand why. In today's video I'm going to show you how Lars' synergy with heroes like Krista, Cascade, and Polaris can turn simple control into devastating damage and even create stun chains that can last far longer than most players expect. By the end of this video, you'll see why Lars is becoming one of the most dangerous heroes in today's meta. Today we dive deeper into Lars, his role in the current meta, and why his value has grown so much in recent battles. If you have watched my latest brawls, you may have noticed that I've been using Lars more and more often. The same change is reflected on the Olympus website as well, where I recently placed Lars in the S tier of the tier list. That decision didn't happen by accident. With the newest exchanges and hero interactions, Lars' role has evolved, and his overall impact in battles has increased significantly. So today I want to explain exactly why Lars has become a more frequent choice for me and why his synergy with other heroes makes him far stronger than many players initially realize. Let's begin with Lars himself. At first glance, Lars' ultimate skill may look unusual because it doesn't deal direct damage. Instead, it summons a powerful storm that pulls enemy backline heroes into the center of the battlefield while applying watermarks to them. On paper, this may look like a control tool rather than a damage ability, but the true strength of this skill comes from how it interacts with other heroes. The classic and most well-known synergy is with Krista. But what most players don't realize is that this interaction becomes far more powerful once watermarks start stacking. Krista's Frozen Needles ability places stacks of needles on enemy heroes. When Lars activates his ultimate, Lord of the Storm begins pulling enemies together and constantly repositioning them. As those enemies move through the battlefield, Krista's Frozen Needles repeatedly trigger damage on every enemy that Lars moves through the storm. Because Lars is dragging multiple heroes together, Krista's damage spreads across the entire enemy team instead of just one target. This interaction alone already creates a powerful offensive combination, but the synergy between Lars and Krista actually goes much deeper. Nearly every skill in their kits interacts with the other in some meaningful way. A great example of this comes from Krista's newest ascension skill, Generous Watermarks. When enemy heroes have watermarks applied to them, Sebastian can no longer remove those marks. This is extremely important because watermarks become a permanent debuff during the fight. Once those marks exist on the enemy team, any hero who deals damage to those enemies will receive healing in return. Lars is naturally one of the best heroes at applying watermarks. His abilities constantly mark enemies, and once those marks exist, his final skill, Conductance, becomes significantly stronger. Every attack that Lars lands against enemies with watermarks gains two powerful bonuses. His damage increases dramatically, and his stun duration becomes much longer. To understand how powerful this becomes, let's look at the numbers. Normally, Lars' lightning bolt stuns enemies for 4 seconds. But once a watermark is applied, the stun duration increases by 110%, which immediately pushes that stun to more than 8 seconds. At the same time, the damage of the lightning also increases by 220%, meaning the damage output nearly triples. In practical terms, when Lars hits an enemy that already has a watermark, the lightning bolt can deal more than 200,000 damage, while the chain lightning portion can deliver more than 160,000 damage to each additional enemy it hits. Of course, for that damage to reach its full potential, magic penetration is essential. Fortunately, Lars provides that support for his entire team through his artifact, the Stormy Talisman. When activated, this artifact grants around 50,000 magic penetration to the entire team, allowing all allied heroes to bypass enemy magic defense and deal significantly higher damage. This is why Lars is not only a control hero, but also an important enabler for magic-based teams. But this is only the beginning of the interaction. This is where things start to change dramatically, when Cascade enters the equation. Cascade is another hero capable of applying watermarks, but the key difference is frequency. Cascade applies them far more often during the battle. Because multiple heroes are now applying watermarks consistently, Lars gains even more opportunities to trigger his enhanced damage and extended stun effects. Cascade also brings another important mechanic to the battlefield. Through Elemental Surge, Cascade transforms the basic attacks of intelligence-based heroes. Instead of dealing physical basic attack damage, those attacks become magic damage that scales directly with the hero's magic attack stat. Let's take Lars as an example. Lars has around 147,000 magic attack. With Cascade's effect active, Lars' basic attack becomes roughly 46% of that magic attack value. That means every basic attack can deal around 70,000 magic damage while also applying control effects. Now when you combine Lars, Krista, and Cascade together, the synergy becomes extremely powerful. Watermarks are constantly applied, Lars' damage increases, healing effects trigger more frequently, and the entire team begins dealing magic-based basic attacks instead of physical ones. But the control potential of Lars becomes even more impressive when we revisit the stun mechanics. As mentioned earlier, Lightning Bolt normally stuns enemies for 4 seconds. With watermarks applied, that stun duration doubles to around 8 seconds. Now if we introduce Mara as Lars' patronage pet, Mara further increases control duration by 200%. With Mara patronage, the stun jumps even higher, reaching around 12 seconds. With Mara and watermarks together, the stun can reach around 24 seconds. And this is where things start to become dangerous. And the chain of synergy does not stop there. If Polaris enters the team, the entire control chain becomes even longer. Polaris Northern Lights ability increases the duration of control effects by an additional 60%. When Polaris increases control duration by another 60%, that stun can climb close to 40 seconds. This level of control is extraordinary. But Polaris doesn't just extend control effects. She also dramatically increases damage output. Polaris True Freeze ability boosts magic damage by 140% when certain conditions are met, specifically when the glacial fortress is destroyed and Polaris activates her ultimate ability, Pulsing Comet. Now remember Cascade's earlier effect that converts intelligence heroes' basic attacks into magic damage. Once Polaris magic damage boost becomes active, all those magic-based basic attacks become dramatically stronger. If Lars was originally dealing around 70,000 damage with his basic attack, a 140% boost pushes that number close to 170,000 damage per attack. And that's just from one hero. When Krista, Cascade, and other intelligence-based heroes are included in the same team, the total damage output skyrockets. This is where Orion becomes the missing piece. One weakness Lars has is slower artifact activation. Orion solves this problem perfectly. Orion casts abilities extremely quickly, which means his artifact activates constantly. This keeps magic penetration active almost permanently, allowing the entire team to deal full damage throughout the fight. So when you combine Polaris, Orion, Cascade, Lars, and Krista together, you create a team that delivers massive control, extremely high magic damage, and continuous artifact activation. However, there is an important interaction to keep in mind if you consider adding Augustus to this composition. Augustus converts magic damage into pure damage. While this sounds powerful, it creates a conflict with Polaris. Polaris True Freeze ability specifically boosts magic damage. If that damage is converted into pure damage by Augustus, Polaris damage boost no longer applies. A similar conflict appears between Augustus and Krista. Krista's generous watermarks skill heals allies for 50% of the magic damage they deal to enemies with watermarks. But if that magic damage is converted into pure damage by Augustus, the healing effect will not trigger. Because of these conflicts, Polaris and Augustus generally should not be used together in the same Lars-based composition. Now if we introduce Electra into this ecosystem, another layer of synergy appears. Electra already has strong self-sustain through vampirism. When Electra deals damage, she restores health based on that damage. If Polaris increases Electra's magic damage by 140%, the amount of healing Electra receives through vampirism increases proportionally. At the same time, if enemies have watermarks applied, Krista's generous watermarks skill also provides additional healing when Electra damages those enemies. This means Electra benefits both from increased damage and from multiple healing sources simultaneously. And this is exactly why Lars has become such an important hero in the current meta. His ability to apply watermarks, extend control effects, amplify damage, and enable multiple layers of synergy allows him to interact with a wide range of powerful heroes. When the right combinations are used together, the entire team becomes far stronger than the sum of its individual parts. So when we bring everything together, Lars proves to be much more than just a control hero. His ability to apply watermarks, extend stun duration, and amplify damage unlocks powerful synergy with heroes like Krista, Cascade, Polaris, and Orion. When all of these mechanics start working together, Lars doesn't just control the battlefield, he becomes the engine that drives some of the most dangerous magic teams in today's meta. Now I'd like to hear from you. Are you using Lars more in your teams? Have you tested any of these combinations? Share your experience in the comments and let the community know what strategies are working best for you. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future Hero Wars strategy guides. Salute and friendship.